Hello and welcome to Crux Investor. We caught up earlier today with Cole Evans. He's the CEO of Enduro Metals. They've been pumping out some pretty high-grade results recently, and we talked to him about their plans for 2021. And our thoughts on that conversation, go to cruxinvestor.com/club. You can also find detailed company reports and analysis in there. There's also summaries of other interviews that we've done to save you some time, training courses to help you with your due diligence process, and of course, a thriving community of investors sharing their thoughts and ideas with each other in a nice, safe, friendly environment. Sounds nice? Go and join them at cruxinvestor.com/club. And we'd love your feedback too. So do give us a like, we appreciate it. Leave your thoughts below. We'll get back to absolutely everyone. And if you want to see precisely what we talked about today, take a look in the description below. Cole, how are you doing, sir?
Great, Matt. Thanks for having me again.
Oh man, when was it? Beginning, middle of November? Something like
last in 2020.
2020
that's right.
Feels like a long time ago. Hey, you've been a busy boy. Have you had a good? Well, first of all, let's be pleasant. Did you have a good break? Did you have time off?
Yeah, no, it was good. I mean, I can't say I'm the kind of person that likes to take much of a break, but it was good to have a bit of a recharge. Couldn't see as much family as I would have hoped to, but that's par for the course right now.
There you go. But you've been busy.
Yourself?
Oh, me. Yeah, it was kind of quiet, but we're on lockdown. We're not allowed to do anything, go anywhere. So a lot of work happened, a lot of eating, too much drinking, all the good stuff. And so reflecting on last year, what a year 2020 was, and well, for yourselves included.
Absolutely.
But I want to hear about 2021. I want to hear what you're going to be doing in 2021. Yeah. Okay, that's why I'm here. Do you know the bit that really kind of got me when we talked? You were talking about using leading edge technology. You're talking about AI. We're talking about just thinking and coming at mining differently. Now, you can only go so far with that. So I'm hoping to hear a bit of that today, if I'm honest. Is that going to be possible?
Absolutely. I love that. That's some of the stuff I like talking about the most. So.
Cool. Okay, well, given there'll be some people on here who haven't heard the Enduro story, the new Enduro story, why don't we kick off, give them a 1-minute summary of what it is that you're trying to build here, and we'll pick it up. We'll pick up some of the conversations from there. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. So Enduro Metals, we're a junior explorer, and we have a 638 square kilometer land package right in the heart of the Golden Triangle. It's 4 main systems, right from our copper, gold, porphyries to near surface high grade gold. Veins and skarns, all kinds of different deposits, all kinds of different metals. Our near-term focus is on the high-grade gold right now, but also, kind of like our press release coming out this morning, talking about the future and talking about that longer-term growth, particularly in the copper side as well. So I wouldn't say we're a pure gold focus. Gold right now, moving into copper and other metals as we move to the future.
Right, good timing. Okay, so just to remind people that we had a conversation in November. We talked about business plans, strategy, the team's background, the takeover. Right, you kind of removed the previous management team, new ideas, and you wanted to implement that quickly. So people can go to the link below in the description for that. We're talking about moving forward with you guys. So a bunch of drill results coming out, some quite nice grades, some high grade stuff, some more homogeneous, lower grade stuff, not lower grade stuff. What you expected to see?
Yeah, it's like I say to people so far, unfortunately, it's been such a delay, but results are starting to roll. We got our first 4 holes out on that last drilling press release, and say to people, every hole we drill is hitting high grade gold, which is great. But also too is that, like you mentioned, those broader, lower grade bulk tonnage style intercepts. And that's where, if you look at the deposits of the future, what will the gold deposits of the future look like? That's what these are. You're looking at these broader bulk tonnage deposits. So that's not to, put aside the near surface high grade gold. I mean, that's great. We're open to the northeast. The last intercept we got thus far out there is 8.85 meters of 31 grams gold with about 1% copper in that as well. So things are looking great. And we're also starting to see that bigger scale gold system that's going to be really important, and what the Golden Triangle is known for.
So how did every hole has hit high grade and this more homogeneous lower grade stuff? I mean, you've used some of the previous data to kind of assess where you should be targeting, and maybe just explain to people, you're sitting on a very sizable land package. So where have you started and why there?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Why do we start? Why there? One, because we had the most it's still relatively not a lot of information, but we had the most amount of information that we could work with. And that ties back into what you're saying about using data, using technology, and how do we find the ore deposits of tomorrow. And when we started this process, it's never stopping. It's been a couple of years of this data amalgamation, a whole bunch of different things. I mean, I'm sure you hear people talk about AI and all these. It's an entire there's so many facets to it. It's really difficult to explain all the processes it goes through, but we go through and we churn data, and that's really at the basis of this company. Is I would call it a data company, and we take that data and go through, like you said, so looking at these things from the 1980s that were, more or less have been overlooked since, and coming with new results out of here and saying, hey, no, this thing is completely open. Not only is it open, the best grades that we have hit are in the open areas, in these extensions underneath, things that either back in the day were covered in ice or the surficial geochemistry can't pick up before. So it's with this new technology that we're able to do it now today and seeing the success that we're seeing from it.
Right. Okay. So we're talking, again, I would refer people back to the previous interview in terms of your background and why technology is a big part of what you do. A lot of companies talk about, they collect data and they work out where to drill, etc. I mean, so just again, what's new about the way that you are doing it? Why are you going to have more success?
Yeah. So what's very unique about Enduro from a junior explorer side that you will not see, I would even go as far as saying, I don't think you will find another company doing it the way we're doing it, is a technology called hyperspectroscopy. So you hear everyone talk about AI and all that stuff. Okay, that's one thing. This hyperspectroscopy, now we didn't invent this technology. This is used by the majors in a big way, but in a way that's too expensive for a junior explorer to use. So part of, and this even goes back before Enduro, before we got Enduro together and started this, was something that our team privately has been working on for a number of years in how can we implement this technology in a way that a junior explorer can afford to do it, right? And that's what I think has really made us successful. When we look up at Burgundy, so we talked about our copper gold porphyry systems. In our third hole, we made a discovery up there nicking the side of an alkali porphyry system that was undercover in 3 holes, which no one had ever hit hypogene mineralization there before, right? So it goes into, I don't think you're going to find another company using that technology, though it's a big word, but that hyperspectral technology in the way we're doing it. And that's just been a result of years of constantly refining that process and having the right team in place that know how to do it.
Right. So you've got a high degree of confidence in the technology, right? And I've noticed that your step outs are proper step outs. You are trying to understand what you've got. These aren't like small step outs or just changing the angle. You're really trying to understand the ore body. So that's going to require money as well. So how are you approaching this? Because you've also reported mineralization at the end of these holes. So you could go back down there. So you've got something. How are you coming at it?
Yeah. So from the sticking with in the near term, high grade gold, that's what we think is going to bring the most immediate value for our shareholders and what's obviously the cheapest to drill. Part from that finance side, it's also a lot of it is bringing down our costs. I've said before, one of our goals is to be one of the lowest cost. Now I say greenfields because of course if you're brownfields, there's already, everything's already there. It's cheap. So one of the lowest cost per meter greenfields explorers in the Golden Triangle. And it's about being creative. It's so easy for anybody to just, have a helicopter, come here, do everything in these expensive ways that are traditionally done. But, I look at it, I like to think that I'm well aligned with the shareholders in the sense that I am the largest shareholder, and I don't want to be unnecessarily diluted in all these things. And it comes down to just being creative about how you operate and how you can finance, your next goals without having to constantly go back to the market and raise capital. And that's going into 2021. We're fully funded. We did our big financing back in August, where, when we took over this company about a year ago, there was nearly 3.4 million in payables, and there's $160,000 in the bank. We look at today, we've got nearly $6 million in the bank. We have a clean balance sheet, and we've gone through a year of exploration. So we're fully funded for 2021. We know exactly what we need to do. And I truly believe that 2021 will be the breakout. Of course, we got more data from 2020 coming, but it will be the breakout year for Enduro to get to that bigger stage in these bigger programs that you see going on around us.
Okay, well, you named a potential problem there. People have got to helicopter things in and out. Helicopters are expensive. Pilots are expensive. Fuel's expensive.
Yep.
Isn't that prohibitive for a small junior like you?
Yeah, it can be. But it goes into being creative about it. So, something that we're actually going to be starting probably in the next couple of weeks is our winter trail access. That's cutting back our helicopter, by 50%. So when you're talking about your number one expense and you're cutting it by those drastic numbers, that makes a huge difference financially in how we're, like we say, targeting those some would say lofty, but they're real goals of being that lowest cost per meter Greenfields Explorer. So it is possible. You just gotta be creative.
Right. Okay. So you put out a release recently talking about Chachi. You're coming. I mean, interesting, and it was quite a long press release as well. You went into a bit of detail there. So why approach it like that? Why, jump to like another one of your assets? Why not get focused in on one thing? Be clear about what you've got. Spend your money wisely. Why spread the money?
Yeah, well, so part of that was a 2-year process that had been kind of going on in the background, grassroots exploration. And what we said to our shareholders was, we want as data is ready, as it's completed, interpreted, and ready to go to the public, we're rolling it. Because just from a transparency perspective, we don't want to be sitting on things that we think people should know about. When it comes to Chachi and it comes to that low cost, like you say, with helicopters, that's less than 3 kilometers from our camp, less than 3 kilometers from the airstrip. So it ties back into that low cost exploration. It also ties into the scale of what the Golden Triangle is. You look all around us. What are these? They're right? They call it elephant country for a reason. And that's what Chachi represents to us. It's that you can see the photos, like these things are multi-kilometers in size. So it's showing that we have all of it. Well, like I said, our main focus is still going to be on that near surface high grade gold, or other spots. Like there's some spots at Burgundy and Chachi that will be touched in 2021 at a smaller level that I think will bring that near term value. But predominantly, as we said, focused on the near surface high grade gold, but anything that we have rolling already, we're going to be putting out as soon as it's ready to go, so people are informed about what's going on.
Okay. You've got to love the name Golden Triangle, haven't you? It's like you put a triangle around something and it becomes valuable, it seems, in this industry.
If only it was that easy, Matt.
I'm looking at it's more like a branding exercise. Well, okay, so but everyone's heard of the Golden Triangle. I assume it's this one. What are the comparables for Chachi? Who, in terms of what else is out there like it? What are you trying to replicate, or what are you trying to be better than?
With Chachi, to be quite frank, I don't think it's really early. I don't think there's anything that would replicate it at this point in time. It is a beast of its own. I'm very, when it comes to the technical side of things, I'm conservative in what I say, obviously being a geologist. So I don't want to overstretch there, but it's absolutely a beast of its own. We've been fortunate to explore over 3,000 square kilometers of northwestern British Columbia. In our time, as baby-faced as I may look sometimes, we've seen a bit of ground. There's nothing comparable to Chachi, in my opinion. But we do know, and this is some of the press release we had out in January, and our last one as well. We partnered with UBC here in the Okanagan, it's the university in what's called a geochronology study. And what they've been doing is pinpointing these different of these 4 zones we talk about on our property. And they've been pinpointing chemically exactly where these fit in the Golden Triangle package. Talks about Burgundy. We had results come out showing that these are the same rocks that form Galore Creek. I'm gonna plug your ears if you don't like big long words. It's called a silica undersaturated alkalic porphyry system. Okay, holy smokes, what's that mean? All you need to know about it is this. There's 2 places in Western Canada where you'll find that. One of them is Galore Creek. Of course, this is a joint venture between the world's largest gold miner and Canada's largest diversified miner, one of the largest diversified miners in the world. And the second one is Mount Polley Mine, which is a mine, right? So it's good company to be in. And of course, being right beside Galore Creek helps as well. But so I would make comparisons further out there as to what we're seeing. Chachi, I truly believe is something completely new in its own. I mean, we've had 5 occurrences of high-grade nickel and cobalt that we found on surface, along with the copper and silver, the copper and gold. And this is over kilometers in scale. So there truly isn't anything like it in the Golden Triangle, in my opinion.
Right. Okay. We're getting all the buzzwords in: nickel, copper, silver. It's brilliant.
Oh,
brilliant. Yeah. I'm loving it.
It's all there.
It's all good. You'll be a polymetallic company before we know it. So, but come back to the thinking, right? Because I'm really interested. We have loads of questions sent in around this as well, which is how do you go about planning 2021, drilling, okay? Do you have plans to go deeper? Because everything you've done so far is relatively shallow, which is obviously good news, I suspect. Do you plan to go any deeper? Do you need to, or do you need to get those eye-catching headlines with high grades? I mean, what's in there? What's happening in the board meetings around those sorts of discussions?
Yeah, so we're looking at both. As mentioned, the near surface high grade, but we see a couple, particularly at Burgundy and Chachi, where you can start to see what do I feel is really going to move the needle. Let's look at other projects in the Golden Triangle that have been discovered or in their discovery phase, particularly in the Sulphurettes camp. It's these big intercepts of copper and gold, right? Your porphyry-like intercepts. We've identified a couple areas. One in particular is this Green Rock area, part of Burgundy. We did a channel sample there. I can remember. You can see this thing from the helicopter. That's the kind of grades you're talking about. That's how I spotted it, was from the helicopter. If 37 meters, 1.3% copper, 1.5 grams gold, 28 grams silver, and 3% zinc on surface. Completely, we went right to the edge of the snow and we had to stop. That's never had a drill hole in it. We've got some geophysics and got a pretty good idea of what the depths of that thing could be. So we're going to be targeting things like that as well this year when you're talking about those deeper holes that we have a high degree of confidence in hitting. But we don't want to be going around and poking deep holes all over the place to test theories. We need to stay focused on what's going to bring value, and that's predominantly the high grade near surface.
But you've also got to play a game, right? You've got to play the market game. You've got $6 million ish there. I get that you're frugal. You're a big shareholder. You want people to be pretty tight with that money. You don't pay yourself a ton of cash either.
I think I buy more open market shares than I get paid.
Right. Okay. Yes, sir. But that's all good. That's all good. That's what you're meant to do. Is how do you go about planning driving the share price up? Because if we look at the share price, your share price is sort of there or thereabouts where we were when we spoke in November. It hasn't been that long a time, and it's been over Christmas and New Year's. I get all that, but people are looking for you to do something new, right? You need to show I can run a company, not just in terms of in the field, but in the markets too. So how do you go about addressing the market concerns about what it is that you've got? I mean, what are the things you need to talk to them about?
Yeah, well, I think that our biggest thing is amplifying our story. And that's one of the things we would have seen the last couple of weeks. We just uplisted in the US to the OTCQB, just starting to make those connections in the United States. And and growing our audience, because we have the story and we know we have the goods. It's about getting it out to people. Our press release that came out this morning, that's the first press release we've ever translated into German. I was just having meetings in Germany with people yesterday. And so it's touching those new markets. It's getting our story out there. And to be frank too, it's the mining industry is archaic in a sense, right? A lot of it is just going out, meeting people, those handshakes, lunches, all those things. In the COVID world, which unfortunately for enduro is the only thing that we've known is a pandemic world, having those one-on-one in-person things have been difficult. But I think as we transition into the spring and restrictions, particularly in Canada, are going to be starting to loosen up, that's going to become a lot easier, and we're going to be able to get that story in front of where it needs to go. Not only in Canada, but as I said too, in those other bigger markets where ultimately you're going to drive the most of your buying from.
Fantastic,
particularly the United States.
Absolutely, I think the OTC QB listing is good news because the volumes going through there at the moment are sensational. A lot of companies reporting back on that. You've got a bit of an overhang though with the previous management. Are there warrants outstanding and that need to be dealt with?
Yeah, well, I'm glad you brought that up, actually, Matt. That's so over this 2021, we're going to be having, it's the exact number. It was done in a whole bunch of weird tranches, and anyways, but it's well over 20 million in warrants that are going to be coming off in 2021. So I think people are going to that's starting in a month from now. So I think people are really going to start to see that fully diluted number decreasing significantly, which is important. And like you said, talk about cleaning things up and being in the right hands. That's something that we've been working on a lot over the last year. Not just me, but obviously consolidating those shares or the structure of the company tightly, allowing those warrants to come off and putting us in a position, like I said, where 2021 will be the breakout year for Enduro Metals.
Let's talk about that, because I think that would be a concern for people. I know you're dealing with it, you're addressing it, not avoiding it. So when you say they're going to come off, over what period? What do you think is going to happen? What's it going to mean?
I think you got about nearly 20 million warrants expiring next month.
Is that it?
So coming up. So yeah, they're just and it's a double-edged sword. I own 4.5 million of those. But it's about what's doing best for the company, right? And I think that's what's best for the company.
What are the conditions on those warrants? I haven't actually.
Those are 35-cent warrants.
Okay, there we go. Good. Makes it nice and easy. You shouldn't send this interview out until they expire. Just to let you know. Just saying. Okay. Can we just talk about some technical questions sent in by shareholder or people want to be shareholder, if you don't mind? Okay, so this one is about the northwest and northeast extension. Do you plan on doing any deep holes into those new anomalies that you think may be the source of those extensions?
Yeah, so we don't have our 2021 complete plans out yet, and we won't until we have all the data back from 2020 for obvious reasons. But I can say a plan we're looking at closely is you have that ZTEM anomaly, along with some other things, but what can be seen in that press release, that ZTEM anomaly, and seeing that there's gold continuing, these holes are ending in gold, that I think that could be worthwhile testing. Okay. Deeper holes.
Okay, and next question. Talk to me about the Texas. What can you tell us about the Texas Creek intrusion?
That's a really good question. So that's a early Jurassic. The Golden Triangle has 5 mineralizing events. I won't talk about all of them, but I would arguably one of the most important ones, or the most widespread one, is this Texas Creek intrusive suite. It stretches all the way from, if you're down at the southern point of the Golden Triangle, so the Stewart area, Premier, that's Ascot Mining. People may recognize that name. These are the rocks that form Premier all the way up to deposits up in the northern tip near Red Chris and Newcrest ground. Not Red Chris itself, but near up there, and everything in between. KSM, Bruce Jack, Snip. There's more. I won't name them all, but so point being is there's very specific times in the Earth's history that made these big deposits, and you want to be right there with them. And that's exactly what's happening at the Northwest Zone, really greater McClymont. It's beyond the Northwest Zone now.
Okay. So what can we expect to see from you in 2021? I'm trying to say, you've come on, we've had a nice chat.
Mm-hmm.
We know what's gone on before. We're looking ahead. What can people expect from you in 2021?
2021, well, we're going to be starting 2021 in a couple of weeks' time here. We're going to be getting into the field, getting prepared. We want to be first out the gate for exploration in 2021. Like I said, we know exactly what we got to do. We know where to go. And that's going to be our high-grade gold. And then also talking about, again, these are not finalized plans yet, and they won't be until we have all our data back. But knowing what we know now, high-grade gold, further along the McClymont, looking at some of that deeper stuff, as well as Chachi and Burgundy to a lesser degree, but the targets that are, lined up, ready to go, we know exactly what we need to do there. That's what we're focused on there. Pads are even built at Chachi, already ready to go. It's, like I said, less than 3K from camp, so easy to do as soon as we get in.
Okay, and you think that is what the market wants to? Well, obviously warrants. We need to that needs to be dealt with. But you think your focus in terms of the drill bit, in terms of getting ready for this exploration plan of yours, that is going to be good enough for the market to go, do you know what? They know what they're doing. They're in control. Know where they're going. And if you continue to deliver numbers like this, I think people will start to pay attention.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a fine line between what's fluke and what's a pattern. And when it makes that switch, you'll want to, that's where you see that rise. And I would argue that we're starting to get a lot of flukes, and it's not going to take a whole lot of time before people realize that, no, it's a pattern. And that's what builds a deposit.
Beautiful. Cole, good catch up. You stay in touch. I want to see
Absolutely.
what you do this year. I like the way you describe it. The results have been coming through the drill bit. That's also appealing. But stay in touch. Let us know how you get on, okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate it, Matt. Thanks for having us on. And yeah, we look forward to catching up later in the season when we've got 2021 exploration on the go, and I'm sure more exciting results by then as well.